Good morning. My name is John. I'm with Johnny Thundersticks, and I'm here to introduce you to One Horse. One Horse is a gun manufacturing company in Brownstown, Indiana. It was founded by a U.S. veteran, Jeremy Harmons, or Hammonds, I believe it is. Jeremy is a experienced veteran with lots of gun experience and has come up with a really good product here. So, with that being said, I'll give you a little background on me. Um, I've been in the gun industry for quite a few years. I've been working on the AR platform, AR-9s, 10s, 15s, and just about every caliber you can imagine for the last 25 to 30 years. Also manufactured 1911 pistols um, for several years. So anyway, we're going to get going on this. I'm going to try to do my very best to illustrate putting it together. My fingers are big and they're arthritic, so a little bit of that doesn't help, but I will do the best I can for you. Okay, so the first thing we're going to start with the mag catch. The mag catch fits in this little slot here. On the other side, where the mag button goes, is here. And so we'll take the spring. It's the biggest spring in the package. Goes in that hole. And then this is a really nice button, a really nice release button. And I've used these on AR-10s as well when they're that, nice and big ones like that. So what I try to do is I try to get it so that I can um, get this in the hole, and I hold it with my thumb, putting my fingers in the mag tube, and then you can start the mag catch into the button, and you'll feel it grab into the thread. So try to get as many turns on that as you can. Um, I like to get enough turns on this so that it won't fall out of that catch no matter how hard you push on it, because if it does, you lose your magazine and your ammo, and depending on the situation, could be your life. So anyway, that's that part. Now we're going to put in the bolt catch, which consists of three parts also: uh, a spring, a little half-inch spring, a little uh, plunger, and then the bolt catch itself. The bolt catch uses actually four parts. It has a little pin that fits in the housing here. And what you're going to do is put the spring in first. So your spring goes in place. The plunger goes on top of it. You're going to get a drop of oil in there. You're going to place the mag catch, or the bolt catch, excuse me, bolt catch on top of it. And basically you're going to just hold this. You kind of get a feel. It's going to fit even with the top of this. I put a piece of tape on here, and the reason I do is I try to protect this finish really well. So I take my tape, and then I just tap it, and you'll kind of feel it. You'll kind of feel it when it grabs. It catches it, so it's you'll know that you're there. Then I drive this in as far as I can with the hammer, so the unit's flat. If you hit the case a little bit, it doesn't hurt anything. You want to just not take the finish off. So then I use a roll pin, actual roll pin type punch, and a couple taps, and it's home. And it's inset, so it won't catch on you. You want to make sure there's no sharp edges or anything. So there's the bolt catch, magazine catch. Remember, don't force anything on these. If it doesn't go, there's a reason why it's not going. So don't force anything. Most of it goes together pretty easy. These I'm gonna leave the springs on them. I have them on already, mainly so that you can see the orientation of the spring. The orientation of the spring is so that this top part of the spring here goes around the rounded part of the trigger itself, and then these legs come down, and I put a little bend on these legs. So when you're looking at these legs, I usually grab them right before the little twist, the twisted end, and I just put about a 20-degree bend on both of them. And that what that does is it lets it sit down in flush with the bottom of the your trigger bottom here, and it lets it ride easier, and it does reduce the trigger pull a little bit, but not by much. Then I always smooth these edges here, there again with about 400 grit sandpaper, and all you're trying to do is just get the casting, any casting flaws or any burrs or anything, so it's nice and flat, and then it'll just ride really nice in your case, and works good. Okay, so the disconnector spring is a little half-inch spring with a bigger end on one end. The bigger end, if you look at the trigger housing, the trigger housing has a little cutout right here, and that spring goes in that little cutout. What you do is you push it in, you'll feel it bottom, and that's where that goes. So that little spring goes in there, and that's where it'll sit. Okay, so this is your disconnector. Disconnector sits on top of that, just like that. These holes are going to have to line up. So when you stick this in to the housing, just like so, you'll want to push this down until you can see that those holes are kind of semi lined up. You might have to use a little punch or persuader of some kind. I have a little tool I use. It works pretty good for me anyway. And so then you can get in here and line this up a little bit. I always use I have a rubber and a little nylon mallet, and it works pretty slick. Okay, so when you get to the disconnector, you want to make sure you hold it, and then that'll bring it right into place. Oops, there we go. Remember, don't force anything. It'll go by itself. Okay, there's the trigger assembly. The disconnector's in there and attached. All right, so now what I do is I like to put in the selector now, because what happens, this is your safety selector. And the reason I do that is because when you put the hammer in, the hammer sometimes will put enough tension on it where it'll hold that housing of the trigger housing up, and it won't let this go all the way through. And here again, you can see the orientation of that. This trigger or the hammer has a curve in it where that spring needs to be sitting in that curve. And then these legs are going to come around to the back side of the hammer. There's the front of the hammer. That's the front of the hammer, and these legs are going to be back here. I also do the same thing. I put a little bend, about a 20-degree bend on these, on both legs. Those legs go in and go across the pin for the trigger. That helps hold that trigger pin in. And I also polish these ends, and I polish along where it comes up to the actual hammer hook, uh, the sear part of it. And you don't want to take material off. All you're doing is cleaning up, because these are kind of cast parts. You want to make sure that it's nice and smooth, so there's gives you a really nice smooth transition. Okay, so then I always put a drop of oil on both sides. There we go. And then when you put it in, you'll have to, you're going to be pulling back, and at the same time, you're going to be pulling back and pulling forward, and then you can capture that like that. And so then you'll want to put the spring in, or I mean the pin in, excuse me. And the pin will go in like this. And then you'll want to straighten this out like such.